thing I want to talk to you about today is the Taylor Swift obsession. So you'd think after the terror attack in Israel on October 7th, you'd think with everything going on with Biden family corruption, with now Donald Trump being taken off the ballot in Colorado, you'd think with everything going on in our country as it stands today and the horrible things happening around the world, you'd think maybe there would be just a slight pause in the nonstop Taylor Swift coverage. But there's not. And, you and I talked about this a few months back with the Barbie movie. So I want to lay my intentions out there very clearly. I like Taylor Swift. I have no problem with Taylor Swift. I don't even think this is Taylor Swift's fault, to be honest with you, because she's not covering herself. I think it's the media's obsession with Taylor Swift that's become so annoying that it's ruining Taylor Swift for people who actually like Taylor Swift. What do you make of the obsession, and is it going anywhere?
That's possible. I hadn't thought about it that way. But, I just think that, her even winning Person of the Year is one of the greatest PR campaigns probably ever waged. I think it's incredible what they've been able to do. You go in the supermarket, she's on every freaking magazine there is. So, yes, the obsession, the media obsession, what I challenge is that the media will not push back at all. They lap this up. They feed into it. Now, Taylor Swift goes to a Chiefs game and she says, I have no idea when they're covering me. And I don't know about if it pisses off some dads, Brads, and Chads. I think she knows exactly when that camera's on her, because when is it not? Let's be honest. So in spite of the fact that you like her music, that's fine. I think that's great that a lot of people like her music. But when you oversaturate someone in the media that much, it's going to piss off a lot of people who otherwise just want to watch football. So I do, like you, blame the media for their incessant coverage of her, which makes the problem compounded and worse.
I do agree with her, though, that it really isn't her fault. She shouldn't have to hide herself at a game. She shouldn't have to be, under cloak and dagger if she wants to go watch her boyfriend play football. I mean, that's every bit her right to go and watch and be there and be seen. It's more the NFL that tries to cover it, the media trying to cover it. I mean, every day I look at my feed and I see death and destruction, and then I see Taylor Swift made Travis Kelce cinnamon rolls before the game. Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce left the game together. Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce held hands. And I'm thinking to myself, this is not only not breaking news for a real outlet to cover, but this is even, to me, something that E-News or People shouldn't cover, because this is daily activities of somebody who's simply a breathing human. And I'm wondering when enough is going to be enough on the literally moment-by-moment updates of how she moves, breathes, and walks.
I don't think we will see a ceasing to it. From a songwriter's perspective, I just wanted to see some emotional maturity, some emotional maturation in her process. I think, when John Mayer wrote that song Paper Doll about her, and he's saying, you're like 22 girls in one and none of them know what they're running from. To me, I thought that was perfect. And he doesn't even want the song to be about that, but we know that that's exactly what it was about. I want, if the media is going to cover her, I want it to be about something good that makes me feel good, that feels like, oh, wow, I can applaud that. The problem is that every time I see a media story about her, it's something I can't stand. So I think from the guy's perspective, we're sick of it. We don't care. By the way, it's not exactly been the Chiefs' good luck charm either. But the telltale sign for me, Tommy, honestly, and I'm sure you've thought about this, is to what extent can Taylor Swift affect the vote? Because she has a mobilized army of fans that do not think, they think she's Jesus come off the cross, that she can do no wrong. To what extent can she mobilize all these fans to go vote for a man with dementia who has a sniffing problem? Is that possible?
Yeah, I think it certainly is. And again, I see what you're saying about this. One thing that does bother me, though, about conservative influencers or conservative media when they talk about Taylor Swift, they're so angry that she's got this influence over people. But I can't be angry that she's got the influence over people, because that's something that I think we should be envious of and jealous of, that we don't really have that. But I actually think we do have that, and there's another obsession on the right, and that's Donald Trump, right? So as much as the left loves Taylor Swift, and we're worried that she's going to be able to get out the vote, I mean, there's a lot of idol worship when it comes to Donald Trump as well, and he's also a celebrity in many regards, if not really all regards. Obviously, he's a former president, but he's always been a celebrity. So I think it's interesting when conservatives get so mad about influence of Taylor Swift. Well, hey, listen. We wish we had it, right? Isn't it kind of one of those things where it's like we can bitch and moan and we can stomp our feet, but it'd be kind of nice if we had that kind of mobilizing force on our side outside of Donald Trump.
Yeah, that's true, and we've always had a little bit of a problem with our influencers on the side of the right. But I will say, there's that song by Living Colour, "The Cult of Personality," and that describes perfectly what's going on here. Whether it's Donald Trump or Taylor Swift, there definitely is a cult of personality around both. The difference to me, though, is that Donald Trump has done things, has a track record of doing things that are positive for most Americans, whether that's the economy, unemployment, job growth, all of that, lifting up Black Americans, Hispanic Americans. I want to know what Taylor Swift has really done to influence the market and make our lives
though.
better.
I have to play devil's advocate here because she has stimulated the economy a lot. So I will say this about her. I don't like the constant coverage of her by the media because I think it's annoying about the cinnamon rolls and stuff. But I will say this, as far as Taylor Swift goes, I just have to be fair about it because here's what I will say about her. Stimulated the economy, revitalized a lot of cities with her tour, with people spending money on hotels, small businesses in the area of where her concert's going to be. So I'll give her that. And I will also say this, even though if you like her music or don't, at least her music for the most part is pretty wholesome. It's not Beyonce and Cardi B and Nicki Minaj who talk about gross, disgusting things that children shouldn't be listening to. So I will give her that for the most part, she is pretty wholesome. She's not altogether a bad role model. Yes, she's dated a lot of people, but as far as celebrities and mega celebrities go, I will give her that on that side of it. So she has done things. I think we put too much weight onto what celebrities should do for the world. I wish that maybe they did less for the world and just focused on their art, their craft, stimulating the economy, which is a byproduct of their art and their craft. But I think like leaning on celebrities to find our political guidance, I wish we did less of that.
I agree with that. I just think that my opinion is that, and it's just one man's opinion, is that Taylor does most of her things as a PR stunt to accentuate herself and her image. I think it is intentional. I think there's a very intentional effort behind it. She didn't do all the things that most songwriters did to get where they are. That she didn't have to do all those things. And I'm not blaming her because her dad had that kind of money. That's fine. But I just think that in this cult of personality, this worship of a person, that we have to hold them to account. Conservatives don't like her because she's a Democrat. That's obvious. That's the low-hanging fruit. The question is what has she done to actually help move people along? You talked about the role model situation. I don't think she's a great role model because I think if you were trying to tell your daughter, look up to this girl, she's had 38 boyfriends and none of them want to marry her, is that not a red flag? Is that not just someone saying,
all right, Bo, we're going to get back into the Barbie conversation because, listen, having 38 boyfriends does not mean that you are necessarily, and she said it, she's poked fun at it, does not necessarily mean that she's the problem. She very well could be. I don't know her, but she's had 38 boyfriends or whatever. I actually think it's better that she hasn't gotten married and had several divorces and things like that. So I don't think that we can necessarily blame her because she's dated a lot of guys. She doesn't have a sex tape like Kim Kardashian and Paris Hilton. She's not been seen doing drugs or doing nasty things. So I do think that she's a role model, Bo. As far as celebrity role models go, I don't think she's certainly not the worst.
In a way, Tommy, but for the moment, if you just indulge me, if her lyrics are all saying, it's never my fault, it's always someone else's, there's no level of introspection, doesn't that send a bad signal to those girls out there that say, maybe I don't need to look at myself, it's always Chad, Brad, and Dad's fault, it's never mine? Isn't that a time for reflection? Most songwriters, John Mayer included in them, there's a lot of females too, that over time, they look inside themselves and say, maybe I was at fault for this, maybe I ruined this relationship. And if you don't have that moment of self-reflection and introspection, you not only not just grow as a songwriter, but you're not going to grow as a human. And so I'm looking at her emotional IQ and saying, where are you going? What are you teaching our young people? That's where my head is.
Well, I mean, to be fair, Bo, she does have an entire song saying that she's the problem.
So I think that's a bit tongue in cheek.
I mean, if we're going to go back and do her discography, I am a Taylor Swift fan. So she's had several songs wherein I do believe she somewhat blames herself. But I do have to push back on the notion that it's her fault that nobody wants to marry her, because I don't think that the barometer of success in life is that somebody wants to marry you. I think being a billionaire is a better barometer of success. So for that, I will say, go Taylor, go.
And that's fine. And I think you share the opinion of a lot of her fans, and that's fine. I think just from a guy's perspective, I think we look at it and say, there's a lot of man-hating songs out there. There's a lot of them. And I think, it gets to a point where of saturation, just like the media point that you made, it becomes oversaturated. And you say, why is there all this obsession about this one person? And the fact that no one will push back and question her about some basic things, it's like she can do no wrong. It becomes this kind of messianic figure, which I have to challenge. Just as a human being, I have to challenge it, because nobody's perfect. I love Billy Joel. I love Garth Brooks, but they're not perfect. I know they're not perfect individuals. They'll never be perfect, but it's in their imperfection that I find their perfection in a way. I love to find those imperfect things that they do, whether it's as a musician or as a person. They make mistakes. They stumble. Taylor is no different from any of those people.
Well, I'm glad that we got into a full-on Taylor Swift debate and dialogue. That's a great thing to pair with the Senate sex tape and the Colorado ballot situation. So we covered it all. I really appreciate you being here. A very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to you. And we'll talk to you in the new year. Maybe there'll be a new obsession and we'll cover it then.
Who knows? Thanks, Tommy.
Thanks, Bo. All right.